Hello, New York Realers. Thank you so much for being with me during Roberto Blake Week. This week, we have a guest, my friend, who is a creator, YouTuber, educator, entrepreneur, marketer, and he is Roberto Blake. His slogan is always be creating. Monday to Friday, we have 5 days of awesome content. Monday's theme is everything YouTube. Tuesday, technology. Wednesday, entrepreneurship. Thursday, creativity. And Friday, if this is the first time you're watching New York Real, my name is Olive Hoy. Our slogan on New York Real TV is the act of finding out. It's all about learning and taking action. Do what you love and find a way to pay yourself. Besides New York Real Zoom, where I interview my guests on Zoom, I have New York Real interviews, New York Real field trips, New York Real fit. Subscribe to my channel, New York Real TV. Be a part of the community. We are here to do cool things together and experience life and make the best out of it. Welcome to Creativity Thursday. This is New York Real TV. I'm Olive Hoy. I'm here with Roberto Blake. Roberto has been with us all week because it is his week, Roberto Blake Week. Monday, we talk about YouTube. Tuesday, we talk about technology. Wednesday, we talk about entrepreneurship. Thursday is about the fun stuff, creativity. Let me ask you, Roberto, what are your favorite medium to use in terms of expressing your creativity?
I've always been a visual person, but I've dabbled in all of it. Not just, I've dabbled in all the visual arts for the most part. And I've been doing that since I was a kid. I came up starting with traditional illustration very early on. As a kid, got into photography. My dad was a big photo enthusiast. So was my mom and a lot of my uncles. So I had a lot of people to get me into it. And then with drawing and art, my uncle was a big inspiration, but my mom also had artistic ability and talent and let me experiment with everything from chalk, paint, illustration, watercolors, sculpting. So I did all of the creative things. And also I did a lot with things like Lincoln Logs and Legos and Constructs and Connects and all these things to be able to experiment and build things, not just like drawing and painting, but I actually got hands-on, very tactical in terms of building things too.
When you created the comic book for your friends, is that really a real story you came up with?
It was a fantasy thing, but it's like, I don't feel like much of it was that original. It was like basic superhero style stuff.
Do you have different issues? Like they have to if they want to know what happens.
I kind of went down that road for a while and everything, but I was also drawing all that stuff by hand and that and I also made comic books just for myself too and would staple them together. It was a fun little hobby of mine.
Do you still have them? Or it's
unfortunately no, like none of that stuff survived.
So if anybody had bought a Roberto Blake early classic comic book, please show us.
One day in the near future, something I might do, maybe it's something I decide to do for myself is when I go on trips, maybe I start doing it's one of those things where there's certain art that I keep for myself versus put out into the world. But I've been thinking of storytelling in different ways, and there's something I might do in the near future, even if it's like a very short, limited run thing. I might do something, even if it's like not something that I mean for people to. I might do some kind of online graphic novel thing, but it's not going to be something that I want to get big or that I want to make money. I just want to make something and put it out there. And if people are interested in just seeing how I would do something like that, that's what I would probably do with it. It's not something I feel is essential to my brand. It's something I'd probably keep for myself. But if I put it out there, maybe it encourages somebody else to try to do their thing, or maybe it's motivating for them, or maybe it's just cool for people in my community to see the things that I make sometimes. Again, even though I'm kind of super artwork wise, I'm really super selfish about my art. It's why I separated some of my personal artistic stuff from my creative entrepreneurship on purpose.
Wow. Maybe you just described how I feel. Because whenever I draw and paint, I do watercolors and ink, and then someone will be like, why don't you sell this? I have stuff, but it's because I painted my friend's dog. So she said, I want it. Can I buy it? But it's not like, I don't want to mass produce my art. I also want to separate it. I guess there's nothing wrong with wanting to do your own thing and then separate like your income sources from other things.
Some people should cash in on their creativity, and I believe in that, and I teach that. But you have to be self-aware. You have to know what you want to keep for yourself. There's a reason I didn't choose to become like, because sometimes people hit me for like, you give photography advice and stuff like that, but do you make your living off photography? I made a conscious choice to not make my living off photography. I worked in a photo studio. I worked for a couple that had a wedding business. I also was a second shooter for people like all the time. And the thing is, if I had really wanted to, I could have like made my living on photography if I really wanted to, and I had enough of a passion for it, and I had enough skill. I didn't want to because I realized through self-awareness that I didn't like feeling that I had to do something or that was forced. I didn't like having to compromise on certain things. I felt like, this is something where I'm selfish. This is something where I don't like other people's input. So don't make that a business.
So you realized that early on?
Early enough.
There was one drawing painting that I promised you that I would do, promised you and Craig. That would be the next thing I work on. Do you remember?
I didn't actually.
Okay, then you'll be surprised.
Okay, cool. Hey, I'm good with that.
I would like to hear your take on writer's block, the type of creativity, or your famous thoughts of being a sellout, why people are afraid to be creative, and then use that to monetize. All these terms, like, do they really mean something? Are they all just excuses?
Most people who throw the word sellout around need to be punched in their mouth. And that sounds super aggressive and egotistical to say, but the reasoning I have is this. Most people have no idea what selling out looks like, and I'll tell you what selling out looks like. Selling out is when you do something that you don't care about, that you don't love. It's when you suck up to your boss and then you talk trash at lunch or in the locker room about them because you still need a paycheck. And so when you're doing crap you hate and working for and with people you don't like because your paycheck relies on it, sorry, that's selling out. What selling out is not is doing things you love and making money at it. Selling out is when you compromise your beliefs in favor of money. Selling out is when you compromise your personal integrity in favor of money. Even like what people have turned selling out into is you did a thing I don't like and you made money. You did business with people I don't like and you made money. A primary example, Casey Neistat. Casey Neistat sold his company Beam recently to CNN for quite a bit of money.
Right.
And there are people who decide, I'm going to open this window, I need a little fresh air.
Yeah.
There are people who decided to call him a sellout because of that, right? There are people who decided that, Casey sold out when he sold his company to CNN. Casey didn't sell out. Casey, he sold out because mainstream media, because they have all these negative things about mainstream media. They feel he sold out because he doesn't necessarily share their political beliefs. That's stupid. It's not about whether Casey did something you don't believe in. It's about whether Casey did something he doesn't believe in and made money. Casey didn't compromise any of his personal values. You just don't agree with his values or you don't share his values. That's not him selling out. You get what I'm saying?
Even before that, he was working with HBO and mainstream media. Like, he doesn't need that to be so-called a sellout. It's just the reasonable next step. And I'm sure he doesn't think about stopping daily vlogging when he started.
No, that was purely, a lot of people think that the two things were related. That was just a coincidence of timing because what people don't realize is that daily vlogging is not sustainable for most people. And in fact, most of the YouTubers who've been doing daily vlogging for a certain amount of time, their lives have gone in very poor directions as a consequence of that. Not everybody, but enough of them. We saw a recent thing with Shay Carl. We saw that BF versus GF, which was Gina and Jesse. Gina and Jesse, they ended up breaking up because of it after a 10-year relationship, and they both are going through so much stuff. Daily vlogging is not sustainable for most people, but then creatively speaking, for someone like Casey as a filmmaker, it was easy to end up in a manufactured process for that, which isn't that satisfying for somebody like him. And keep in mind that like he had been doing videos for 5 years before he decided to do daily vlogging. And yeah, it blew him up on YouTube, and it took him from 500,000 subscribers to 6 million. But having done that, like, should he have just kept doing it until he hit 10? Like, that's what a lot of people would have done. That's what a lot of people have done. But it wasn't satisfying anymore. I could see it in the videos. I could see, this is getting manufactured. Oh, this is getting repetitive. And he said it himself. And other people were calling it out. So, that was the reason. And then the timing was, oh, well, my company just got an offer. I mean, there are very few people that I think if they got an offer on something that they put their money and their time in for the last 5 years, that they've been, hoping to turn into something. If for the last 3 or 5 years, you've been working on a thing and you took investor money, and then all of a sudden you get offered $25 million and the opportunity to work with a multi-billion-dollar company, who says no to that? Everyone who's called him a sellout, they would sell out for 25 million. The odds are even if they hate CNN, even if they want to scream fake news, most of these people, if 25 million, heck, if 2 million showed up at their doorstep, they'd sell out and put on a CNN hat and t-shirt so freaking quick, it'd make your head spin. And the thing is, I wouldn't hate on them for it. I wouldn't hate on them if they're a sellout for 2 million. I was like, everyone has a price tag, and man, yours was steep enough. Congrats to you. But Casey didn't do that. He didn't even sell out. Like you said, he's been involved with mainstream media since the early days of his career.
Maybe if he sold it to Fox, then it's different.
But that'll hit a whole different spectrum of, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. Like, that's the deal with it. Ultimately, sellout has become a pejorative term for people who are unsuccessful to throw in the face of people who are successful. And that's just the truth now. It wasn't supposed to be that. It was supposed to mean that you compromised your integrity. You did things you don't believe in. I made the analogy in a video. You remember this. I said, look, if you wanted to follow Lord Voldemort because you really believe in your heart of hearts that muggles are evil and need to be, wiped off the planet, and you decide that, I'm signing up to be a Death Eater today, that's a horrible thing, but you're a true believer, which means, guess what? You're not a sellout. But if you're like, hey, I don't believe any of that crap that Lord Voldemort is spouting, but the Death Eaters have a really good healthcare plan, so I'm going to get on board, that makes you a sellout.
Yes, we should just focus on the things that we need to do rather than worry about, other people's success or what other people's choices are. And when the choices are presented to you, then I'm sure you will know in your heart what you should do.
Exactly. I mean, it's just like what I said about like, oh, you know what? I kind of don't like being told what to draw. So I guess being an animator is a bad idea. And again, at the time, it would have been because of the simple fact that for the era that we're talking about, late 90s, the technology of that time was very limited. So it's not like today where it's like I could have done all of that on my own terms, right? So that would have been very different. Financially, from where I was coming from and for what my circumstances were, there was no way that I was going to be able to, on my own terms, straight up be an animator with the resources, the software, the hardware that I had to run. So I was going to have to figure something else out, which would have looked very different than what I ultimately feel like I would have wanted to do. So, and then at the same time, I also, like I said, I didn't want to be told what to create. That wasn't going to be satisfying for me personally at all, at least when I'm talking about either being an animator or an illustrator, and when I'm talking about being a photographer. So for me, design was a place where it's like I was much more willing to bend there and be like, I'm okay with being, told what to do from a design standpoint and collaborating with people and getting input and working for a company. That I can do. Oh, with technical stuff, absolutely. I'm like, okay, that I could live with. So that's how I approached it. That's how I dealt with it. Was I had to know where my line was.
I feel that way about doing voiceovers. because it's easy for me to read something. I do a lot in Cantonese, some in English, and they call my voice like global voice. You sound like you're from somewhere, but we can't really tell. And I didn't feel like any resistance when they offer me a job. I go there. I don't even have to dress up or look a certain way. Just read the site and ask questions. It's quite fun. It's just like acting. And then I get paid sometimes for just like 5 minutes, to get the minimum, which is like maybe like 2 hours of work. But I really enjoy that. And I don't feel like that's work at all, even though that has nothing to do with my channel or my band or my art. This is so, I feel so lucky, honestly, to be living in 2017, to be able to
where so much is
make
just available.
Things. Yes. What are the things that you don't get to tell creators, or you get to because you can make videos every day, but you don't get to tell them enough.
There's not much I'm holding back there.
Or questions that you wish they would ask but nobody asks you in the realm of creativity, or just making things, trying new things, combining different mediums.
Here's the thing that everyone asks that no one really understands. They want to know, okay, Roberto, like, how do I make money with my creativity? Like, I think that's the end of the day, what everyone wants to know. One, you have to know what you're willing to do creatively for money. So you have to know what your line in the sand looks like. That's number one. Number two, think about what you do that provides value for another person that would help grow their business or serve their purposes, not just yours. So, okay, got that. What now? Well, beyond that, you have to then identify who those people are. Who is it that you can create this value for that will grow their business? And what is that worth to them? What pain does this eliminate for them? Because they have anxiety about something. It could be that what you're going to do is going to save them time. What you're going to do is going to save them money. Or what you're going to do gives them this other ability that they just currently don't have with regard to something they want. Let's use a real world example. Let's say that you are a graphic designer. You're a graphic designer. Okay, they have a great product, but their marketing and their branding sucks. You do graphics and web. Their branding on their website sucks. They can't get people to buy. Their packaging sucks, whatever it is. Your ability creatively can solve that problem and can help them be more profitable. It's then on you to prove that to them. How do you prove that to them? With your body of work, your presentation style. And again, you have to find who these people are. You can't expect that they're going to come to you. They don't know that you can solve their problem, and they don't know who you are. So you have to figure out, how do I make sure that this person knows who I am? How do I present myself to this person? So presentation matters. Portfolio. How do I have a body of work? And does my personality, did you research this person? Do you know what their personality is like? Do you know what the company and its culture is like? So if you don't understand the people, if you don't understand where your personality comes into play, if you don't understand what it is that they want to promote, and if you don't have a strong portfolio and you don't know how to present yourself, because you have the greatest work in the world, and if your ability to present and to communicate is crap, it won't matter. If you don't carry yourself well, that won't matter. So you have to keep all these things in mind. And if you can do that, and that's a lot, then you can be a successful creative. You can make it as a creative if you can do those things. And that's the reality. That's how you make money being a creative. You have to understand people. You have to understand presentation. You still have to have a portfolio of work, but you also have to understand how to present yourself. And if you can't do those things, it's going to be hard on you. It's not that you won't ever be successful, but it's going to be a lot more difficult if you can't do those things.
I like that you lay them out in the order that makes total sense. You said in the beginning, what can you offer creatively, and that can solve someone else's problem, but you're also comfortable with doing that for other people, which means that it's not all about you drawing your own thing, sculpting your own thing for yourself only. So you get that part down, you know where you draw the line in the sand. That is very important, because most people start with the end result and say, photographer, can I do that? Or like graphic designer, can I do that? And without thinking about what they're willing to do, what they're good at. Wow, that was good.
And the other thing is, people need to suck it up and stop crying about spec work and stop crying about working for free. I get it. You got bills to pay and everything like that. Okay, you got bills to pay. If I'm an employer or I'm a client, that's not my problem. My problem is that I need, before I take on you and I have anxiety about whether you can deliver and whether you can deliver on time, you know what I need? I need to be able to call a bunch of people as your references. And I need to be able to say, hey, so-and-so, what's it like working with that guy? What's it like working with that girl? They deliver on time? They got toxic personality? Yeah, I need to be able to do that. And if you haven't put me in a position to do that because, well, nobody's giving me a chance and everything, that's not my problem. I'm an employer. I'm here to write checks. It's not my problem. I'm here to make money for my my shareholders if I am a publicly traded company. I'm here to make money so that I can pay my employees and pay payroll. And again, it sounds callous. There's a concept called employer empathy that is not taught in design school and is not taught in school in general and is not talked about in the world of entrepreneurship. Employer empathy is not taught in entrepreneurship. And
I hope it's in your book.
It's not a whole chapter by itself, and maybe I'll write a short book on it by itself because it should be its own thing, to be honest. It should probably be a TED Talk, honestly. But employer empathy matters because people selfishly don't put themselves in the shoes of the employer or the client, and they are only thinking about themselves. And that's how they lose, because you're thinking about, well, you want this vacation time or you want this salary. You're not thinking about how you give me value. You're not thinking about how you give me value. You can think about those things, but you should also be thinking about how you give me value. And when you're communicating to me, it shouldn't be about you. It should be about how you give me value.
Yeah.
In exchange for what I'm providing you with in forms of the salary you want, the living you want to make, whatever. Because that's what's going to be important to me. You don't win people over to your side by making it about you. It has to be about what they get in return, or it has to be about what they get up front. Tyrion Lannister from Game of Thrones, primary example, he always asks people, well, what do you want? And then he says, well, I can help you get that. Here's how. I'm going to help you get that. Everyone else wants you to bow to their, well, do what I want because I'm the king. Do what I want because I'm from a noble family. Do what I want because I'm your better. I'm like, no one's interested in that. No one cares. But when you say, well, hey, what is it that you're trying to do? Oh, you're trying to do that? Well, if we team up, we can make that happen faster. Now I'm listening. Oh, really? Well, what'd you have in mind? No,
that's Lord Ferris. Hopefully not Littlefinger.
Well, that's more again, that's Tyrion Lannister. Varys kind of does, Varys kind of...
But not for himself, for the harmony.
Littlefinger looks at what people want, but he doesn't ask them and try to facilitate it. He exploits it. There's a difference. Tyrion is I'll offer you what you want, and in exchange, there are some things that I would want. But he makes it clear that he can help facilitate the other person's deal. And so in employer empathy, what that kind of looks like, what that looks like for creative people is, instead of hey, I want to work for you as a photographer, it should be, I hear that you're trying to get more speaking engagements. Is that something you're trying to do right now? It's yeah, I am actually. It's are you happy with the headshots that you currently have? Actually, I feel if I had stronger headshots, I could be more competitive. It's well, I'm a photographer, and, here's what some of my work looks like, and here are other speakers that I've shot. Who are some speakers who have great headshots that you would want to, stand up against?
That's a good one.
That is how you would pitch a speaker as a photographer, not, hey, do you need a photographer?
Here we are again.
Hey, thank you so much for watching New York Resume Roberto Blake Week. Did you enjoy the conversation? Go check out robertoblake.com. Connect with him on social media. Please subscribe to my channel, New York Read TV, so we can stay in touch. And there will be more videos like this coming. We had Becky Walsh Week, where we talk about intuition. Dory Clark Week, where we talk about how to become recognized in your field. This week with Roberto Blake Week, we learn how to survive as a creative in 2017. Comment down below to let me and Roberto know what you think about today's topic. Are you a creative? Are you an entrepreneur? What's your experience like? And give us a thumbs up if you like this video. Thank you so much, Roberto, for sharing. Thank you so much, New York Realists, for supporting my channel. And don't forget, create something awesome today. See you in my next video.
about you, never gonna fade away. Can we get this shit together and heal